Welcome to episode 47 of the Left Behind Game Club. This week, we play episode 1 of The Wolf Among Us. If you like what you've heard, you can do two things. Join our Discord at leftbehindgame.club. You'll find a big Discord button. Click that to join us. And second, send this show to a friend. As we started through the game, we role-played it in very different ways. Some of us forgot what logic was.
I think one of the decisions that kind of jumped at me first was, do you go like peek in your ear? Do you kick the door down? Do you open it? Or do you talk? What did you guys do?
I kicked the door down.
Hell yeah.
I'm a bad wolf, and I kicked that door right down.
Mike, did you?
The door's unlocked, so you can just open it.
Oh, shoot.
Oh. Well, I kicked that soundbit down.
You're listening to the Left Behind Game Club.
Welcome to the Left Behind Game Club, our never-ending attempt to make sure that no game is left behind. I'm your host, Jacob McCourt, and today we have two friends. The first friend, you know him, you'll love him. His name is Michael Ruffolo.
I'm excited to talk about a good game.
Me too. The second friend is also here to talk about a good video game. His name is Murtadi.
Good game indeed. Another one, another classic.
Whoa.
Another classic.
It's not what I was expecting from Mo.
He usually talks trash when we start, but let's not talk trash about The Wolf Among Us, developed and published by Telltale, released in October of 2013, available on every platform you could ever imagine, including the PlayStation Vita. Gentlemen, let's start with Mo. What do you know about The Wolf Among Us?
I knew almost nothing about the game. All I've seen were like the sales and advertisements on Steam and the Humble Bundle. And I think that's how I actually got my copy. I picked it up, I'm assuming. Oh yeah, I did get it in Humble Bundle. And that's pretty much it. I knew there's a lot of hype around it. They've made several games since, the Telltale crew. And a lot of people love the games, and I didn't know anything else besides that. Mike?
So I played The Walking Dead Season 1. Which was, I believe, Telltale's first big game that got them a lot of attention, a lot of investment. I really loved it. It was a really, really good experience. And aside from that, I don't think I had played any other Telltale games. I had dabbled. I had played an episode of, I think the Back to the Future and the Jurassic Park games that they made. But other than that, I didn't know much about The Wolf Among Us. I did know that it was based on Fables, the graphic novel comic book series, but I wasn't a big reader of that, so, again, I didn't come into it with too much. I just knew it was based on fables and fairy tales and mythology. What about you, Jacob?
So I have played a few of Telltale's games. So like you, I believe I've played Season 1, Season 2, and a new frontier of The Walking Dead. I've also played both Poker Nights at the Inventory because I actually really like poker, and those games for a very short time are like entertaining. And I've always been curious about The Wolf Among Us. I actually own it on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. I own physical copies on both because I'm a moron.
You do this so often, Jacob, and I don't know how you just have this money to burn.
Oh, I don't. I'm just like, hey, there's a copy of Wolf Among Us for $10. Let's buy that. And that's why I have so many video games. It's a problem.
It is a problem.
One of these days, my girlfriend is going to come down and be like, hello, Jacob, it's either me or the video game. And to be honest with you, I don't know which one I would choose.
And that's when you look at it and you say, I like bad games. It's my effing problem.
I like what was done there.
I think it's really worthwhile to note in this case, it's probably the best time to play these titles because maybe not the best time, but we want to honor what Telltale's done. They've done a lot of work over the years, and with the kind of bad news that came out a few weeks ago, I think I could speak for myself and say that this is probably the best time that we can honor those employees that have worked on tons of projects at Telltale. And
the bad news that Jacob's referring to is that Telltale wasn't able to close a round of investment or funding. And so the news reports that have come out is that almost the entire studio has been laid off. and it looks like Telltale is closing.
So all of their projects, including The Wolf Among Us Season 2, will not be coming out. I think I at least want to give my thoughts and say that I hope that those folks land jobs very soon, because the situation around that is pretty despicable. I'm just talking on... These are my own words.
But enough about the sad state of affairs of Telltale Games. Let's get into The Wolf Among Us Season 1, Episode 1. What is The Wolf Among Us, and how does it start, Jacob?
So, like you alluded to, Mike, it's based off the comic book Fables, which I didn't mention this, I've not had any exposure to. And essentially, the way the game starts is you play as Bigby. You're not really given much beyond, hey, you play Bigby until you get a little bit further in. And if you know nothing going into this game, like, you're going to be very surprised because, this game is actually about all the Fables. All of them. Mo?
I came in that same little boot right there. I had no idea what to expect, and I'm going to throw this in right now. For some reason, when I started this game, I wanted to hate it. It sounds really weird, but because I tried to, for the longest time when I wanted to kind of test out the Telltale games, when you guys were kind of throwing it around as an option for us to play, I'm like, let's just see what it is. Let's see if I can mentally get through this. And every video, explanation, review doesn't really explain the game well to someone who knows nothing and never played it. They just kind of show hey, it's an action adventure game. There's decision making, things like that. So I knew nothing, completely caught off guard, surprised, and I guess we'll get into it, but a pretty favorable way when we played the game. So like you said, you start off as Bigby, and he's a wolf he's a sheriff. And you're kind of like a police officer investigating things. Mike?
So, the premise of the story is that all of the Fables have been kicked out of the old world, and a lot of them made their way over to, I guess, North America or New York, and the witches have put a spell over a portion of New York, so that way Fabletown is hidden from the Mundies. Mundies are code for the regular people, the average, the you and the me. And each of these fabled characters have to pay for glamours, which allow them to walk about the daily lives looking like a normal person, when underneath they are a troll, a leprechaun, a mythical creature, a big bad wolf, one might say. And so the premise is that all of these characters are trying to live together, and because they don't have, they're not able to go to the normal authorities to help with dispute resolution, they have their own sheriff, and the sheriff of Fabletown is Bigby Wolf, the big bad wolf. And then you come to find out that there are some other areas where the Fables go, like the trolls or the giants. The ones that can't blend in go upstate New York to the farm, and so it's an ever looming threat that if you don't fit in Fabletown, you get sent to the farm.
I don't know about you guys, but I got a lot of Harry Potter vibes from this. And I know what you're thinking. It's like, Jacob, you always get Harry Potter vibes from everything. But hear me out. Only because of, being hidden in plain sight. We've got the Mundies versus the Fables that are trying to conceal their identities with glamours. I just got a huge Harry Potter, the world is magic. But, this game is not for children. This is a rated R experience.
And that's something that completely caught me off guard as well, because for some reason I was like, if it's a game that's so well received, lots of people love it, I was expecting a PG-ish game, but as soon as you start the game, you're getting into a bloody fist fight, slamming a guy in the back of the head with an axe and going through his skull. It's graphic, and I guess the graphic part leads us into the aesthetic itself. It's very comic book styled gameplay. It's a moving 2D game, kinda, sorta, with a little bit of 3D action as well. How else would you guys describe the actual gameplay in the game?
It definitely uses the cell shading technique, and I think the best that I've ever seen a game look like a comic book. They do incredibly good use of lighting and color. Where each time the camera moves, it looks like a different pane in a comic, and you can see how this was maybe initially storyboarded as a comic, and how they translated it into the game with different camera cuts. And I think it looked fantastic. It definitely has a very neo-noir take on it, and it reminds me of movies like Chinatown, from like a thematic feel, lived experience of the game.
Yeah, there's a lot of neon in at least the opening of the episode, and I actually got like Blade Runner vibes just from like all the use of neon in that one. I think it's worthwhile to note that if you've played any of the other like Telltale Tool games, the company has their own internal engine where that's kind of what they develop from. So a lot of their games look very samey, but I don't remember any Telltale game looking as good as this one, as you've alluded to. There is some issues when it starts to move, but it just looks so good.
Absolutely agree. It looks fantastic. It definitely caught me by surprise because I was expecting your typical Telltale visuals. And it seems like they really spent a lot of time with the art direction and thinking about how they can make this look like the graphic novel or comic books that it was based off of.
Because I played The Walking Dead on PlayStation 3. I believe all 3 seasons that I played on PlayStation 3. And, it didn't look great. It didn't move great. You don't come to a Walking Dead game or a Telltale game for the graphics. Also, want to say, I think Walking Dead is one of the best stories in games, the first season, but let's just table that for now. Just before we get into the actual game itself, gentlemen, how did you play this one? I'll start and just say I played it on Xbox One. Mike?
I played it on Xbox One as well.
Mo?
And of course, I played it as any true PC Master Race would. Mouse and keyboard, Steam was my weapon of choice.
Before we get into it, though, what did the interface look like for you? Because I know, obviously, for us, everything's tied to buttons. You're using a mouse and keyboard. What does it look like?
It's the exact same. There's no real... Your movements are with your WASD keys to move back around. And then in terms of, like, when I guess what's the word for the type of fighting sequences that happen?
I call them QTEs, yeah.
Yeah, so when the quick time events happen, it would be like, if you had to slide to the left, it would be press A. If you want to slide to the right, press D. And then when you had to like aim somewhere and punch, you have to point with your mouse and then left click to punch the guy in the face or whatever it is. And to be honest, I wasn't expecting it at all. I think while in the first mission, when you kind of confront the Woodsman, the first kind of bad guy you kind of go up against, I was just watching my screen, enjoying the voice acting, the storytelling, just sitting back at the screen, and all of a sudden it's like mash Q, and I'm like, oh my god! I'm pretty sure I got punched in the face because I didn't like hit Q quick enough.
Yeah, I think it's really worthwhile to know that like the action for at least like the first 20 minutes is incredibly directed, and like most of it is just you fighting. After you confront Mr. Toad in an apartment building, you go up and, like you said, Mo, you confront the Woodsman in a fight that gets pretty brutal pretty quick.
And so, why are you brought to the building?
Was there like a phone call saying there's a trouble happening upstairs by the Toad manager, the building manager, and then you show up and you're like, hey man, what's going on? And you notice the Toad looks like a toad and you're like, yo bro, where's your glamour? How come you don't look like a human? And then he's like, hey man, it's expensive. You can't buy glamour anywhere.
He's got a really good, I guess, Cockney accent. And then I think one of my favorite lines is Bigby says, like, why is there a 3-foot toad standing in front of me? That
was the option that you get to choose. Like, right. One of the things you say is, there's a 3-foot toad standing in front of me. Why do you look like that? Or, I definitely picked the exact same one you did. I was like, there's a 3-foot toad standing in front of me. What the hell's going on?
They do a really good job explaining the whole concept of glamours and the tension between having to pay for them and it being expensive right from the get-go. They set up the world really, really well. Even though I didn't quite know which Mr. Toad from Fable or Fairy Tale he belonged to.
I want to ask, you alluded to being rude to Mr. Toad with Bigby. I don't know about you guys, but I've decided I already know how I'm going to play my Bigby. Do you do this in games where you have Paragon Renegade choices a la Mass Effect?
Absolutely. You have to pick. Are you going to role play the character, and what character are you playing? Mm-hmm. So Jacob, what kind of player? What kind of Bigby are you being?
I want to be a big jackass. I've decided already that I want to be the gruff, no nonsense, like bends the rules sometimes to get his way kind of Bigby. So like I'm gonna be a jerk to everybody, but I'm gonna get the job done.
You're gonna huff and pluff and blow their house down if they don't do what you need.
Yes, also thought it was hilarious the cigarettes are called Huff and Puff in this world.
I thought it was great until they drew attention to it. Mo, what kind of big bad wolf are you gonna be?
Okay, so one of the things I love about this game is like how I am believing that I am Bigby Wolf. And a part of me wants to be, you know what, the lawful person is trying to actually help the town out, trying to turn a new leaf, because the kind of the storyline that keeps popping up in this first episode is everyone's scared of you because you're the big bad wolf, you're going to punch everyone in the face to get your way. And in my head, I'm like, no, I'm not going to be that guy. I'm going to be the actual good police officer. I'm going to not punch people in the face. Initially, though, when you start fighting the huntsman, my adrenaline was going, so I was punching him in the face, throwing him everywhere, like being like total like disrespectful. And then afterwards, when I started realizing this is what they're expecting from the big bad wolf, I'm like, then I'm not going to be that. So for me, I'm being the firm, yet if I can be patient and like let things slide or find an easier, happy path, I'm going to follow that happy path. So that's mine so far.
That's
Mike?
That's a good path, Mo. And it's not the path that I was expecting from you. I was expecting you to break things. I was expecting you to beat people up. I was expecting you to, use any gun that you could find. My playthrough is I am trying to be the sympathetic, lawful big bad wolf, trying to turn a new leaf, be as... he's a sheriff. He's trying... I think in this case, he's trying to be as lawful as he can. So I don't try and break the rules or be unfair or beat someone up unless it is necessary.
I think what you're saying is that you guys are softies.
You could say my big bad wolf is a soft boy.
Okay. It's really weird because typically, like you guys, I usually play that role where I'm like, no, I have to be good and I have to like be a role model for children. And in this game, for some reason, I'm like, no, I want to be a big jerk. And maybe it's the voice acting for Bigby and how like gruff and like perfect it is for his role.
I think the voice acting works really well when you're trying to be a sympathetic big bad wolf as well. Like the voice actor is very good at getting across like, look, man, I don't want to have to give you a hard time. I'm just trying to be here and do my job. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of, what you come to find out is a murder or serial murders. And it definitely comes across that like he doesn't want to be this way if you choose those options. Mo, did you find that same thing?
Yeah, it's very similar, but I can't emphasize enough to anyone listening if you haven't played the game. The voice acting in The Wolf Among Us, at least for me, felt like it was probably one of the best written and performed voice acting for each character independently throughout this episode. The characters kind of, if they're intending to like care about something, you actually believe it. It is really tough, especially like if you're seeing a live action person like acting and you see their facial expressions, you can kind of read a lot of stuff from their body language. That was conveyed perfectly, I think, in The Wolf Among Us, specifically when they're kind of hinting you that maybe this person's a bad guy, maybe this person's not a bad guy. And the one thing I'm touching on is near the end when you confront the woodsman or the huntsman, and he's shocked that you're kind of confronting him about something, and he seems genuinely like in disbelief. It's very believable, and a lot of the characters are very believable in their situation and the interactions that you have with the wolf.
Yeah, I think given the limitations of the visuals, like as far as the characters animate, like you've stated, Mo, it is like well written and well delivered as far as voices go. And like they do the best they can with the actual animations of the characters' faces. But yeah, stellar. And that's why I want to be just a big old Jack in this one.
The voice direction in this game and the voice actors are definitely amazing. I have to agree with you guys there. It really stuck out to me when I turned the subtitles on. Because I like to make sure I'm not mishearing something and that I can tell exactly what's being said. And when you see the subtitles and then you hear the delivery, it stands out so much more just how well they do their job.
Yeah, I usually play games like with subtitles on just to like kind of help follow through, just the same way, the same logic you explained, Mike. But I didn't do it with this game so far. But for the next couple episodes, I'm definitely going to flip that switch because I get that same thing. It's so much you never miss anything, and like some of the stuff they maybe articulate not that well in the audio, you kind of pick up with the written text. How should we kind of go about this? Should we go about some of the big decisions first, or kind of walk through the missions themselves?
I think we should walk through the story. So you're called to essentially the slum apartments that Mr. Toad runs, and he says, Bigby, you have to get over here. He's tearing this place apart. This is the last straw. You hear stuff being thrown out the window. When you arrive, you walk through the door, you're talking to a 3-foot toad in front of you, and you see a TV crash through the window and land behind you onto the sidewalk. And so, after you're done getting the lay of the land from Mr. Toad, you go upstairs to the apartment and you find the Woodsman, or Woody, as they like to call him, with a girl that you come to find out her name is Faith.
One thing, Mike, while you're walking up the stairs, when you kind of hear the commotion and you hear like a big man yelling and hitting someone, I think one of the decisions that kind of jumped at me first was, do you go like peek in your ear? Do you kick the door down? Do you open it? Or do you talk? What did you guys do?
I kicked the door down.
Hell yeah.
I'm a bad wolf, and I kicked that door right down.
Kicked that door way down. That was my first chance to like show some aggression, and I was this big sheriff, and I heard a commotion. Mike, did you?
The door's unlocked, so you can just open it.
Oh, shoot.
Oh, well, I kicked that sumbit down.
So it sounds like almost if we're on a scale of morality, like I'm on one end, Mike, you're like on the other end, and Mo, you're like oscillating in the middle.
Yes, I'm trying to figure out who I am. I'm trying to figure out who I am, what kind of wolf I am, if I'm the big bad wolf or if I'm the big nice bad wolf.
So you come in, and it's Faith and Woody, and that's when you immediately see that Faith has like a bunch of bruises on her face, right, Mo?
Yeah, exactly. So she seems like she's been in a little scuffle. The huntsman seems like he's been in a little scuffle as well, and they're fighting. And I think immediately kind of jumps into him like yelling at her or saying some bad stuff. And that's when you get prompted to kind of see if you can de-escalate the situation, like tell him to shut up, stop calling her the B word, or like push him and punch him. More or less, you kind of get into the big kind of fight with the huntsman about their argument, because you can't figure out what's going on. No one's telling you a straight answer of what the fight is about. You just know he's really pissed off and he's about to attack the girl. So I made the decision, we're scrapping. Like, he needs to calm down, and this is the only way to do it, with the fists of steel and the claws of the wolf. So that's when that big the term evades me again. Yeah, the quick time event happens, and you start throwing around the apartment, bashing his head in, punching him in the face, and I guess you go flying out the window is where it kind of leads to. I don't know if I skipped too much there, but...
No, I mean, all you do is fight, right? And then so you go out the window, and then once you go out the window, I think the woodsman basically grabs you by the neck and starts choking you, and that's when you start to see... You don't immediately know. If you know nothing about the game, you don't know he's the big bad wolf yet.
Yeah.
You don't know for sure. I think they're alluding to the fact that he may be not exactly what he's sharing. So his eyes start turning green, and that's when Faith, who's with you, takes the axe that the woodsman has and just like impales him on the top of the head with the axe. And what you think kills him, right?
Yeah, that's kind of surprised the heck out of me, because I said, okay, she just murdered someone. I'm going to have to cuff her and take her in, because she puts the axe through his like skull. Like, I think it goes like a third of the way in his head, and for some reason everyone's just okay with it. They assume that he's going to be fine, and that's when you realize, oh, they're mythical creatures. Maybe it doesn't affect them as much or whatever it was, but that's an instant like game over blow right there.
If it was a Monday, they would have been dead.
Yeah, GG.
But because they are a fabled creature, or part of a fable, they can take a beating, which is one of the things, again, you find out very early in the game that comes to be a part of the story later on.
So once that wraps up, essentially where you go is it your partner that comes get you first, or you go to the business office first?
Well, at first you're trying to figure out who the girl is, and you ask some questions, and she is talking around giving you an answer. essentially what she points to is the ribbon on her neck, and the ring that's on it, which you're able to then go and Jacob, take it from there.
So like I said, once you figure out, you kind of get an idea. She doesn't tell you who she is, but you're like, I don't know who you are. What you end up doing is you go back to the business office, which is being managed by Ichabod Crane. Mo?
Is before that, though, right before you kind of go your separate ways, you have that one big decision that comes up, and it's one of the decisions that you get to see at the end of the playthrough. It asks you, did you give Faith your money? Because she says, I needed to get money from the Woodsman, and I didn't get it, so I don't know what's going to happen. It prompts you, do you give her money? Do you just say, tough luck? Or do you just kind of move on or whatever? So I want to know what you guys did first. Jacob?
I didn't give her any money. I need my own money for smokes.
Michael?
I'm cheap. I did not give her any money.
And neither did money is hard to make. You need to work harder, lady.
So it sounded like we sided with 53.5% of the audience, so we're all cheap.
On Steam, it says you and 15.5% of players held on to your money.
Ooh, so it must be platform agnostic then.
Yeah, because on PC, it seems like everyone's just giving money away because of how cheap Steam games are. They're like, whatever. It cost me like $1 to get this game. Might as well give her the extra.
You got to have a lot of money to play on PC.
You pay for the hardware, not the software.
Yeah.
So the business office.
Yes, finally. Okay.
And that's when you discover who your partner is. And, your partner, it's Snow White.
That was one of my favorite things ever. Because when she said, my name is Snow, because they don't say Snow White. She's like, my name is Snow. And I'm like, there's no way. No way. Where are the dwarves? Where are the dwarves? I was like, for some reason, pleasantly surprised. Like, this is so cool. They are Fables, because I didn't really connect the dots yet until I saw Snow White. Because you see the Toad, you see the Woodsman, but I couldn't remember really that much of it. I know there's the wolf, but I didn't know anything coming into this game. Once again, I didn't know there was Fable based or anything. I just thought they were random mythical creatures. But once I saw Snow White, I'm like, okay, it all makes sense. I see where all the characters are coming from. This is the kind of the cherry on the sundae where it all came together for me.
So once it all came together, Snow White's your partner. You're at the business office. You essentially have the option to engage with some people that are waiting outside, I guess, to talk to the interim mayor. I guess we're alluded to the fact that there was a turnover in government recently, and Ichabod Crane is now the interim mayor for the time being. Yeah, so Ichabod Crane is the interim mayor, and that's when you go to the business office, and that's where all of Fabletown's records are held. Okay,
so before we go any further, did you guys recognize Ichabod Crane? Did you know where he was from?
Not a remote idea whatsoever, and I didn't know until you finally open up that book of Fables. I don't know if you guys saw the big giant one where it has every single character on there in their Fable form. That's when I kind of noticed it, and besides that, I wouldn't have known.
No, I didn't recognize him at all, and I had no idea where he was from. Except, here's a fun fact. He is the voice of the guy on the phone in the Scream movies. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Very random. Very random.
Nice fun facts. So I definitely recognize the name, but I could not place what story Ichabod Crane was from. So the moment that you open up the book of Fables where all the characters are in one frame, and you see him being chased by the Headless Horseman, that's when it all clicked. And I was like, that's where he's from. No wonder he's a coward. No wonder, you come to find out that he's a bit of a weasel.
See, yeah, for some reason, what story is that from? I still don't know.
The Headless Horseman?
Sleepy Hollow.
Oh, okay. I don't know Fables that well.
Oh. Yeah. Well, he's from there. I for some reason, when I heard the name and I saw his role in the game, I thought, for some reason, I just wanted to go to the Scrooge guy. Scrooge and no reason whatsoever, just he looked like him, and I didn't recognize the name, so I thought maybe it was a different name for him.
So you explore this business office to try and figure out who Faith is. Buffkin the monkey, I guess, is a flying monkey, helps you discover this, and also
from the Land of Oz
mirror as well. Sorry, what was that?
Buffkin from the Land of Oz.
Oh, you're going to help us put all this together, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
But before I help you put it all together, as you unveil characters, as you meet more people along the way or hear more about them, you get this little notification that there's a new entry in the Book of Fables that's been updated. And you can go in and see very short profiles on all of the different characters that you meet and start piecing together what story they're from and what some of the backstory is that you might not get in your actions with them through the game.
Yeah, I kind of like how they did that. I saw the little blurbs coming up. I didn't check it, but I knew, like, once I finish an episode, I want to be able to go through them. So it was really cool. As soon as something happened, I knew something was Fable related, and that's why it triggered the event. I thought it was really nice that they added that supplemental info to kind of give you that full understanding of each character, where they're from, and why they're doing what they're doing within the series itself.
Not only that, but also some elements of the world. So, like, that's where you find out what Mondays are, because they just drop, oh yeah, and the Mondays, but you don't know what that actually means. But the Book of Fables actually helps fill that in too.
I didn't know what Mondays are until Mike started talking about it, so now I know.
But that would require you to read, Mo.
Yeah, precisely. I knew one thing. The mirror, mirror on the wall, tell us who's the prettiest of them all. The mirror that was in the office, when I saw that, I'm like, I know that one. And you want to know why I knew that one? It's from Snow White, right? Well, I really knew it from Shrek, because it was a very big thing in Shrek, and he kind of looked like the one from Shrek, too, so it was really cool.
My favorite part of that is the interactions between the mirror and Bigby, because, like, Bigby is a no-nonsense kind of fella, and the magic mirror is almost requiring him to, like, speak in rhyme to get anything from the mirror, and Bigby, like, is being forced to talk in rhyme, and I was just like, I'm like, this interaction is perfect. I want to play this game, Mo.
It's the writing too. Like, it seems like a genuine interaction, as if you were the wolf and you were confronted with, like, a magical mirror that you just for some reason accept just works, and it's like it's like normal conversation between, like, a guy who just has no tolerance for this type of stuff and a mirror that's like, hey man, this is the rules. You gotta rhyme to me, man. Spit some bars or you're not gonna get some truth.
So once you find out who Faith is, and you actually find that out by, exploring, I think it's worthwhile to note in the Telltale Games you get an inventory. It's usually a small inventory, so you can pick some things up. In this case, I think you can pick up, like, a tarot card. You can pick up some other things later, but there's like 5 or 6 items you can pick up. You'll find out who Faith is, and then from there, you'll kind of go back and decide what you want to do, right?
So you find out that she is the donkey girl. And the legend is of her father, after looking for the next fairest lady of the land after his wife dies. The search concludes that it's his daughter, and so to escape, she kills, I think, his prized donkey, wears the skin of the donkey as an invisibility cloak, and escapes. And then I think marries Prince Lazarus? No, Prince Lawrence.
Prince
That's
Lawrence.
It. I'm mixing my mythologies up. So marries Prince Lawrence, and he saves her, and they live happily ever after. Until, I guess, you have to go and decide whether you're going to go and talk to Prince Lawrence, or go back to the house and talk to Mr. Toad, because he calls you in a huff saying, Bigby, he's back. There's, they're fighting again. There's stuff's happening. You got to get here.
I think we've forgotten something, like, very important here. Exploring the apartment complex, where we find out that Faith... Spoilers. By the way, we're going to spoil this whole series, so if you're not interested in getting spoilers, you may want to stop right here, play the game, and then come back. But Faith gets killed, Mo?
Yeah, I think we skipped it really early, but once you're walking out, when Snow White comes and meets you, she says, hey, there's something outside, and you see Faith's head on the front of your apartment complex, just bare by itself, like as if it was left, like Godfather style, like, here, this is the head of someone. No one knows what's going on. They also tell you this is the first time that one of the Fables is, like, murdered or killed, so it's a very big deal, and it's the first time any of them have confronted this type of, like, situation, this traumatic type of event. Mm-hmm. I think after that's when you kind of start investigating more and more to try to figure out, like, what could have done this. It was a clean slice of the head. It's definitely Faith, because it's her head there, and you're kind of starting your investigation, like, holy crap, who could it be? You're trying to find something that kind of leads you down the right path. Before that as well, when you were walking, because I don't want to miss anything, because near the end there's a lot of other stuff that, like, ties into it. You find another girl waiting outside of your apartment, and you find out her name is Beauty, and it's the Beauty and the Beast. She has her her husband as well, the Beast, and she's kind of scurrying out in the middle of the night, and not wanting you to see her. And you come to find you have to make the decision, like, hey, she asks you, don't tell Beast that I'm running out in the middle of the night, and you have to decide: do you tell him? Do you hide it from her? Do you keep the secret? And she scurries along randomly and doesn't give you any information. She just tells you to trust her, and she kind of leaves. So there's a lot of characters that keep jumping in, and you never know what's going on, but everything seems shady. Hopefully that kind of clarifies the Faith Head murder situation.
Yeah,
and that's
so
what starts your investigation.
I think what I just want to kind of let's just set the timeline. So you have the fight against the Woodsman, then you go to your apartment complex where you discover outside there's been a murder and there's a head sitting outside your apartment complex. Then you go to the business office, and then you're given two options of what to do next. Before we go there, Mo, you talked about Beauty and the Beast. What did you guys do? Because that was the second choice that you were given. So I'll start with myself. I stayed out of it. I did not. I'm like, I'm not doing this. I don't want to be part of this. Mo, what'd you do?
She's like, this is where like the voice acting kind of convinced me to do my decision. She seemed like she genuinely wasn't like out to do any harm, and there's some kind of issue and she needed to take care of it. And the way she asked, like, hey, please don't tell Beast, it didn't seem malicious or anything. It seemed like she just needed to take care of something. So I lied to him and said that I haven't seen her. I told him, like, just, I don't know, nothing. Just let him go. So I said I lied to him. That was the decision I chose. Mike?
Yeah, so I told her I wouldn't say anything, and then I lied to him. And it brings up that one of the things that I really like about this game is that saying nothing is like a real option. Choosing not to choose is an option in this game. It doesn't feel like that in many others.
The other cool thing about those decisions that you make is the notification that gets alerted once you choose one. It doesn't really tell you if it's bad or good. It'll just say, like, the Toad will remember this, or Beauty recognized that, or she's happy that you noticed something, or you told her the truth. It's very ambiguous responses, and you never know, is this going to be a positive outcome? Is this going to be a negative outcome? That doesn't tell you anything, and I think it adds to the suspense and the mystery of the game. Like, you don't know what's going to happen, but just keep moving forward and you'll figure it out.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of internet humor since the release of The Walking Dead many, many years ago, where kind of the he will remember this thing really became something that was prominent, because to me that's something that is like, if you talk about Telltale Games, that is almost like one of the number one things you talk about is choice. And although if you went behind the scenes, I'm sure there's, like, it can only branch so many different ways, but there are branching paths that are created based on the decisions that you make. So it sounds like even here, I was thinking, oh, we made the same choice, but even the small differences between our choice were two different choices.
So just to keep track with the chronological order you kind of built up, Jacob, after you get that phone call from the Toad and you're trying to investigate the murder with the head that you found outside, you get two options. This is the first time where they make you decide, like, fork in the road, go left or right. You either go to the home of Faith and Prince Lawrence to try to figure out what's happening there, or you respond right away to the Toad who's having an issue right now at his house. One thing to add to this as well, I don't know if you guys looked in the mirror, but you actually see Prince Lawrence is like him sitting in a chair with a bloody sword near his feet. So that's another thing that entices you, saying, holy crap, that's a very good lead. He definitely was involved in some way with the murder. So it actually makes it a genuine decision. Like, do you go approach this murder right now, or do you help the guy who's in immediate trouble that you know of? I personally went to Toad right away. I kind of left Prince Lawrence because I said he's not going anywhere. That was my thought process. Jacob, what did you do?
I went to Prince Lawrence first, just because, like, I hate Mr. Toad, and I didn't want to have to deal with him.
I loved Mr. Toad. He's pretty cool. I loved his sass. He's a very sassy man.
Mike?
Awesome.
So I don't love Mr. Toad, but it sounded like Mr. Toad's needs were more pressing. So I went to his first,
yes.
And then I figured I'd always be able to circle back and go to Lawrence.
Okay, so 2 against 1. We should talk about Mr. Toad first. Why don't you guys lead the way, because you chose to go see him first?
I'll chime in, Mike. If I miss anything, just feel free to finish it off. So when you approach to the apartment, you're kind of bringing Snow with you as well, and you see the damage that you did. You broke a hole through the roof where you fell out and landed on the car. And as you walk into the apartment complex, you see like some random guy walking around upstairs. So I went straight upstairs right away, and as you're walking into the upstairs floor, there's no one in the room itself. And you're kind of confused, like what the heck is going on. You also have an interaction with Toad, and Toad keeps like pretending like nothing's happening, and he says like, "Oh, there's no one here. Sorry, I called you by mistake." But it's very suspicious, and it seems like he's lying to you. So you spend this next little sequence like investigating his like room, and you I caught him at least in a bunch of lies, and that's where my interactions happen. Like you'd see a broken lamp, and you say, "Why is there a broken lamp?" And he's like, "Oh, just shuffling around furniture." And then like eventually you call him out on that because you realize the lamp was in the living room and it was thrown because of the distance of them apart. And also his poor little son was crying when he first walked in, and there's no direct answer as to why he's crying or what's going on. Mike, you can chime in from here if you'd like.
No, I think you did a really good job summarizing it. You end up, I think you get the option to intimidate him and to, I think, potentially beat him up a little bit. But you can just completely trap him in lies.
Yeah, so that's the path I kind of went on. I chose not to like put hands on this little frog for the entire time.
Yo, I put my hands on this frog.
He's a toad, Mo. He's not a frog.
Yeah, so because there's so many options. Like when you get the 3 like choices or whatever, option 1 would be like to say something like snarky, say something nice, or put paws on the kid. And you get that like 6 different times where you have the chance to kind of like either shake him up, intimidate him, or whatever. And finally, once you discover all like the little evidence pieces and you catch him in so many lies, the only option you have left is like hit him or intimidate him. So I chose like the intimidate him, and you start growling and you choke him out and you're like lifting him, and that's when his son walks out in the room and sees you, and he's like becomes terrified of you because you're the big bad wolf now. And even Snow White's like, "What are you doing? Put him down." Once the sequence happens, you realize that he's bleeding from his head, and you think it's from you, but really it's from someone else. He said, he was attacked by someone, and I think this is a time when do you investigate like one of the closets or something, and a big giant burly man just bursts out of the closet, and you start chasing him through the side streets of the apartment complex.
Oh snap! Okay, so there is a bit of a difference. Okay.
Yeah, so I'll maybe just finish this, and then we'll kind of move on. So you're chasing one of these big little fat little guys, and you don't know what's going on. A lot of the quick action sequences are happening, like you're dodging things being thrown at you, you're sliding up railings, you're running around, and finally you catch him, and you're like the big wolf or whatever, and he says, "Dumb." And you're like, "No, who are you calling dumb?" He's like, "No, I'm D. He's dumb." And then Dweedle Dee is behind him, his twin, punches you, knocks you out, and you're out cold until Snow eventually wakes you up. And after that, I think that's when I went to the Prince Lawrence's camp. So I'll kind of pass it on to you with how you started the Prince Lawrence side. So
one thing I just want to say before that happened is, so I went to the other one first. So the difference for me is there's obviously no one at Toad's apartment. So when you go to Prince Lawrence's first, the way you go is you're basically given the opportunity to go into his apartment. The door is locked. So you go around and you see that there's a window that you could potentially climb through. So you and Snow both climb through the window. And that's when you smell like degrading flesh. There are flies everywhere, and you're like, "Oh snap, there's a dead body here." Mo?
Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but I might have jumbled up the story. Was Dweedle Dee at the Prince Lawrence's house, or was he at the Toad's house? I feel like my memory is killing me. Jacob, did he jump out of a closet in...
No, he actually came into the apartment when I was at Lawrence's apartment. So I'm in the apartment and someone starts knocking on the door.
Oh, I'm sorry, guys. I'm confused. I want to say...
Could it be two separate... Depending on what order you do them in, could it be different?
I guess so. We'll just go from there. I guess I can't remember, but no, regardless, you chase him down and you get beat up by his twin.
Yeah. So the way it works is you start looking around, you find a handgun, you find a knife, you see blood on the floor, you see a bullet in the wall, you see a picture of Lawrence and Faith together, and then what happens is after you pull the bed down and you see a suicide note, almost immediately, like you hear this, like, or at least Snow goes up to Lawrence and like he blinks once, and then you hear like a and he like, "Hey yo, he's not dead.
Yeah,
yo, Lawrence is alive."
And then
Mike?
Bigby turns to Snow and says, "Go quick, go get the doctor." Mm-hmm. And then I think you both come to the realization.
Oh, really? Because I told her wait. I'm like, "Nah, he's good." And you
really?
him some more.
No, I got him some water to kind of help him talk because we realized he was awake too, and then like you had to go get something for him to drink. And for our playthrough, or I guess my playthrough, because I don't know if Mike had the same thing, but you have only one chance to ask him one thing. I eventually asked him like, "Who's your boss?" No, who did this to you? That was the question I asked, and he said, "Faith. Faith did this to me."
Oh snap!
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, that's what he said. He said Faith did this.
But does he mean like
in my
physically
playthrough,
did this
he
or
doesn't-
emotionally did this?
Yeah, he didn't say Faith did this. He just
Did you
says
ask
Faith.
him? Yeah, he said Faith. Yeah.
Okay,
You ask him,
those
who-
are very different things. Like I
No, but you ask
can
him who
totally
did this,
imagine
and he
that a
says
man's
Faith.
dying breath would be the dying word would be the name of his love.
I guess, but I took it as Faith did this. She murdered me in cold blood. That's
So
Yeah, which you do a little bit of snooping around the apartment after he dies, and you find a bullet lodged in the wall in the place that it would be if he shot himself. And so it's pretty clear that it's a suicide attempt and not a murder.
yeah, and a really bad one at that. So that's when you hear knocking at the door, and you go and hide in the closet, and you actually look through the closet, and you kind of see who you figure out is Dweedle Dee, kind of snooping around and checking things out. And at that point, Prince Lawrence like takes the gun in his hand to be like, I want to be able to defend myself. I'll play dead, but like let me have this gun.
whoa.
Did that happen for you?
No, not for me. I'm almost certain that once he said his last word, and said it was Faith or whatever, that was it for him. He was toast, and like that was the end of it. Because one of the at the end, I think one of the things that popped up is like not the achievement, but like one of the choices was I didn't save Prince Lawrence or something. So he was.
Ooh. Okay, because I saved him.
Yeah, because I think it's because we went to the Toad first. That's why we didn't end up saving him. So there's no time. He was already dead by then.
Mike, did you save Prince Lawrence or no?
I couldn't save him.
Right. So what happens is, it was actually one of the coolest moments in this whole episode is you see Tweedledum like find the suicide note on the bed, and like you have to be watching with almost two eyes like a toad. You have to watch Tweedledee and what he's doing, but then you slowly see Prince Lawrence bring the gun up to his head and go to like kill himself, and that's when you have the moment where you have to decide like, am I gonna stay here and watch Lawrence kill himself, or am I gonna exit this closet to be able to save him? And I'm not gonna lie, like I kind of broke character there and like broke my in-game character and tried to save Prince Lawrence. So you exit, and that's when you start chasing after Tweedledee.
Yeah, so I think that was the confusion I had. I think we also chased down Dweedle Dee, but he was in Prince Lawrence's house in a closet, and we didn't like find him until the very end of all of this, because I think one of the interactions is investigate the closet door, and it scared the crap out of me because I was expecting no surprises in the game whatsoever. So I opened the door, and boom, this random person runs out. So that was a correction.
Okay.
He didn't pop out in the Toad. He popped out now, but there was no other interaction besides a random person jumping out and starting running down the alleyway.
Mm-hmm. So I think from there, once you, as you've said, Mo, you confront Tweedledum, you get beaten down, and from there, your only path forward in my playthrough was, going to the bar where the Woodsman is, where you kind of saw in the magic mirror, oh, he's here, let's go to that bar and confront him. To me, that's your only option moving forward, Mo.
I think also Dweedle Dee mentions the bar as well when you're kind of interrogating him on the wall. So that was also one of the decisions. You see that the Woodsman is somewhere, but you don't really know where, and then this guy says he's sometimes at the bar, and that's when you move over there.
Oh, and see, I didn't get any of that because I immediately punched Tweedledum in the face.
Okay, you gotta talk, man. You gotta talk to me.
Yeah, so that's when I think I got, hit in the back of the head. Like, I heard nothing just because I'm like, aggression, boof!
I might actually play more aggressive next episode.
No, don't. You're losing out if you do.
Why? I'm gonna be like the multiple personality wolf.
You take a taxi with Snow White to this bar, and one of the final decisions you make in this episode is Snow White asks you who you think the prime suspect is in this murder case for Faith. And I don't know about you guys, but I, like many of the ones on my platform, said nothing. It's the first time I said nothing in the whole episode. Yeah. I have no idea. Like, who's Bluebeard? I don't know who that is.
So I totally agreed with you that, like, why would I be throwing Bluebeard under the bus right now? He has not come into play at all this episode. No one has mentioned his name. I have no reason to suspect him, aside from having the name of a pirate, which is not someone that you can trust.
Mo?
I chose Bluebeard.
Okay.
Let me explain my very random logic. Just like you, Jacob, I didn't have any like logical reason to blame anyone yet. There's no like solid proof any which way. There was one envelope in your like room very early on, like one of your case folders that said Bluebeard is like up to no good or something like that. So I was like, oh, maybe it's like foreshadowing or something. And the fact that he was an option, and the very last option, I'm like, maybe I'll like hit a home run by selecting the actual person right now and like unlock something. So because I didn't know anyone and I wanted to pick something, I picked him out of like just the coincidence that his name was brought up early on and I remembered it. And on my system, it said 13% of people picked Bluebeard.
Really? Because I know for certain that only about 4% on my system picked Bluebeard, and 36.7% picked no one.
Wow.
So I picked Faith's pimp, and I was just following the most logical chain at that point, which was that, okay, she did not collect any money from her experience with the Woodsman, and so going back, her pimp would not be happy. And it also, I think in a conversation with her, you find out that she's pretty new to this, and she has not been there long. So as a result, I think that her pimp would not take kindly to it and might just dispose of her, even though it would not make sense for him to just leave her head on the porch. It was still the most, the one that felt the most logical, even though all the pieces weren't coming together.
In like the 3 seconds where you have to decide like which one do you choose, Mike, that thought process came to me right away. I'm like, it's the most like reasonable person that we could suspect is him, but at the same time I thought that it would be too easy. This is too easy of a person that would have been responsible for this. And then last minute I said, Bluebeard. I just clicked on that one.
So from there, from the cab, you enter this bar, and when you enter the bar, there's two people in the bar. So there's the bartender, and then there's a gentleman who was outside of the office of business. He is in this bar. He is sitting. He is having a drink, and that's when you start to engage with the bartender. And I was very rude to the bartender immediately, kind of in character. Mo?
This is the one situation when you walked in and you realize just in the basic conversation that they all like hate you because you're the police officer, you never do anything for the town. It's also part of the dialogue. They are expecting you to rough people up and like beat people up or whatever. So that was kind of fueling me. I'm not the same big bad wolf that blew down those houses, guys. I'm changed. I'm a good guy. But also, the way they're like talking as well, you can tell they just don't want you to be there, and they're giving you the wrong answer because you're asking, "Where's the Woodsman? Where's the Woodsman?" And he's somewhere in the place, but they're not telling you because they're like protecting their own like crew.
Yeah, because you can see like there's a beer glass that's like just freshly emptied on the bar, and you're like, "What about this beer glass? I guess you just don't like to do your dishes there, bar lady."
It's half drunk. And then also there's a photo of the Woodsman pegged behind the bar. It's like, is he a regular around here? Not sure who you're talking about, Mr. Bigby, Mr. Wolf.
One like story-based point I want to bring up too is when so what do we call the guy with the eye, the other person that's sitting on the bar? Just like the monster dude?
His name's Gren.
Okay, so,
I'm not sure who he's supposed to be in Fables or mythology.
Yeah, me neither. But one of the things he brings up, because like to kind of explain to us the player like how much they hate the Bigby, is they talk about like, hey, how come you're investigating this murder when you didn't investigate the bartender's sister's murder when we reported it? And he's like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, exactly. Like we went to the office and they dismissed our case and didn't want to look into it. But now you're investigating this random one. How convenient, because you know this person, kind of thing. So you can tell they're frustrated that in their little world, they have a sheriff and like a system to report things, but no one cares about them, and that's why they don't care about the rest of the world themselves.
I just want to mention it's Grendel from Beowulf. That's where Gren is from. And I think it's really apt that we say that, because once you hear a toilet flush and the Woodsman walks out of the bathroom, that's when things go very south.
Yeah, so the guy kind of confronts you and is upset that you're going to be taking in the Woodsman.
This is Gren, right? That gets upset with you?
Because you talked to the Woodsman and said, hey, man, it looks really bad. Like, you're the last person that saw Faith, and you beat her up, and she's dead now, and I have to take you in. And this is when that voice acting kicks in. I genuinely believe that the Woodsman did not do it. Just the way that he was surprised, because when he saw you, he wasn't scared. He's like, hey, man, like, do we have to fight again? Like, what's going on? Like, you're not expecting the topic you're going to bring up, that this person's dead. And when he finds out, he's in a panic. He's like, it wasn't me. I swear to you, like, we have our differences. We've fought him before, but this is something I did not know. I'm a piece of crap. I'm not this big of a piece of crap, blah, blah, blah. But you as the sheriff, you're like, you're my biggest lead. Like, you're the one that's seen her last. And that's when the Gren guy is like, no, you got to leave here. You're not going to take him in. And you push him down on the ground. And he's like, oh, you're going to wish you didn't do that. And in my head, I'm like, dude, I just, like, sneezed on you and you fell down. Like, what are you going to do? And that's when he transforms into, like, his true form without the glamour. And he's like a giant, like, shark monster demon thing that's, like, super strong and just handles you like you're a rag doll, throws you around, because Bigby's like able to fight like with the huntsman and other big people just in his human form, but when he's fighting this like monster, it seemed like he had no chance whatsoever until the big bad wolf came.
And you don't even go full big bad.
No,
you just start turning and the strength comes out, and you know you're able to go really hard in the paint.
Yeah, and the coolest part is when, like, imagine Grendel's like 10 feet tall, 6 feet wide, and you're just getting the crap beat out of you. And like Mike said, it's not until you see the claws come out and
Very
like
well done.
you
Very well
hear
done.
the claws, and you're like on the floor, and that's when you're like, oh no, he's turning into the big bad wolf.
One thing I want to throw in, Mike, you mentioned that he's not even full big bad wolf. To me, that was the most big bad wolf I've seen yet in the game. So I was like, oh man, he's in his full form. Because the first time you seen it, it was just the eyes. Now they did that visual where you see his claws coming out and his face getting the big beard. I was like, he's in full mode. This is full strength. Eventually it gets spoiled to me in like the previews for the next episode. You see a new form. So, but to me, this was like, this is it. This is max level. He's going to like juggle this guy. Exactly. That's what I thought, and he takes the guy down. Jacob,
the bartender also transformed. I want to mention that too, Mike.
Holly, the bartender, transforms as well, and she goes from this, fairly attractive female bartender to a troll, and she is ready to just tear you limb from limb. And speaking of tearing you limb from limb. Once you transform partway into the big bad wolf and you start fighting Gren and you start, winning, you're then faced with the decision, do you rip his arm off? What did you guys decide?
Bye arm.
Oh, you're such a dickhole.
I'm role playing. I'm a nice guy in real life.
Yeah.
Michael, I need to ask you a question. Am I, Jacob McCourt, a nice person in real life?
That is, most of the time, yep.
Most of the time. Let me have my outlet. The arm is gone.
You're right. Okay, fine. You have your outlet.
Some people have jiu-jitsu, some people have kickboxing. Jacob has Telltale Games, The Wolf Among Us, and taking people's arms off.
What did you guys do?
Mo, what did you do? I know you're in the middle of us.
I'm a good person, so as soon as he said he's had enough, I said, okay. I laid pause on the kid. Kid didn't want any more, so I backed up and I stood up because once again, I didn't want to come to this fight. He brought it to me, I delivered, and now I'm moving away from the situation because I explained him what I could do.
I feel exactly the same way. Thank you, Mo. He stepped to me, I put him down, I did not need to end him.
But you didn't end him, you just took one of his appendages.
Look. There's the way that I see it is like the second you rip someone's arm off, that's a burned bridge. There's no coming back from that. You're always going to be the guy who ripped their arm off.
Yeah,
but if
exactly.
you beat someone up,
they will never cross you again.
You're right. They'll never cross you again, but they're never going to help you.
Yeah, but if you defended yourself and came out the victor, that's it. You're not in the wrong.
Exactly. So I just wanted to be in a position where hey, you came at me, I got to fight you, and I think as you see, you're able to mend bridges with the Woodsman, right? Even though you just got into a fight. Now, if you rip the Woodsman's arm off, are you ever going to be able to sit there and have a beer with him? I think not.
Nope. I don't
if
think
he has
so.
it with his left hand, go ahead, Mo.
And right after this whole interaction in the sequence, you get the second fork in the road decision you have to make. Dweedle Dee or Tweedledum, because they both look the same, walk into the bar casually while this fight is ending and say, all right, I got $100 for anyone that can tell me anything about, and then all of a sudden decision pops up. Do you go after him, or do you go after the woodsman who's about to run out of the bar as well? And you have to choose which person you're going to pursue. I'll go first, I guess. I went after Dweedle Dee because to me in my head, the woodsman wasn't in the wrong. I don't think he committed the crime, so he's a smaller fruit than the big guy right here who's going to lead me to whoever the headmaster is in this entire situation. So I book it out, chase him, cuff him up, and chain him to the fence or the pole at the time. What did you guys do before we get to the last sequence?
I did the exact same thing, Mo. I thought, okay, the woodsman is too nervous, too afraid. It would not make sense for him to just chill out at his regular bar if he had just murdered someone. There's no reason for it to be him. But this other guy who is very interested in the murder and very, ends up popping up at the places that I'm going to try and investigate it, I'm sure that he has something to do with it. So I completely bought that logic. I'm in the same camp. I did the same thing. Jacob, can we make it a trifecta?
We can make it a trifecta, but
yeah,
my
buddy.
logic was so different. My logic, instead of being like, the woodsman is innocent, I was like, I know where to find the woodsman if I need him. But Dweedle Dee, he's a slippery dude, so I'm going to get him
fair.
now.
That's
that was
fair,
my thought.
Yeah, though that's a fair logic, I guess, to make that decision too. Like
he's a creature of habit.
Yeah, and one of the cool things, and I forget where it was, but I know in a talk a while ago with Telltale developers, one of their, and again, I don't think I'm misrepresenting this, but what they try to get to on most decisions is like a 50-50, right? Like, they want 50-50, so that, like, that's a really tough decision, and on my platform, it was 50-50. Like, the decision Dweedle Dee versus going after the woodsman, 50-50.
Oh, let me see what ours was, I guess. It says when it came down to the wire, you and 68.7% of players made sure Dweedle Dee didn't get away. Yeah. So it was, I guess, leaning towards Dweedle Dee for my playthrough.
There's one more thing that happens in this episode that I want to cover, Mo.
This is one that caught me completely off guard. And because, like, this was only like a 2-hour experience for episode 1, but you kind of, like, believe the characters. There's a lot of good voice acting. The story is pretty cool, too. Like, I'm fully, invested into it because I played it in one go. So, as for me, or for all of us, I guess, when you cuff up Dweedle Dee, you start seeing those police officers outside of your apartment. So you cuff them up to kind of leave them in one place, and you rush over to see, like, what this tape. There's a bunch of, like, crime scene tapes surrounding the unit. And the first thing I see was Beast walking up to the apartments. I'm like, oh man, maybe his wife or maybe Beauty just got murdered, and like she's dead because he's here right now, and I probably caused it because I didn't tell him that she was gone. So in my head, I'm like, oh man, did I just cause someone to die? And then when you walk up to the staircases where Faith's head was there, you peek over, and literally, I was crushed. Snow White's head is sitting in front of your building, and she's the one that died. I'm like, this didn't need to go completely left with like side. I was expecting something else, and I saw the main character that you've been talking to the entire game completely taken away from you.
Especially when they set it up to be Snow White is your romantic interest, the person that you're, getting the closest to, trying to impress, that you have the closest relationship to.
I didn't even get that. I thought it was just like your
your partner? No, they make it pretty clear that like you have feelings for Snow White, and especially in some of your reactions to things, you are incredibly pissed when it's Snow White, when it could be someone else, and you're like, things happen. But when it's Snow White, you're like, what the hell?
Yeah, there's this really like cute moment in the cab when you're driving back, and when you like interrupt each other, almost like a couple would, where you're like, no, you go first. And that's a moment that melted my cold heart. And I'm like, oh, these two.
She didn't want to rip her arm off because she tried to talk over you?
Yeah,
no,
Jacob,
I would never. I would never.
Man.
But immediately what I thought was like, I'll find a new partner.
Yeah. I think for me, I think it was just the setup of when I saw Beast, and then expecting that Beauty was going to be not that Beauty being dead would be just as would be a better situation, but it was just the fact that I was expecting that to happen, and all of a sudden they're like, nope, not the thing you're expecting.
Yeah.
Here's the co-protagonist completely taken out of the game now.
They definitely foreshadow early or set up Beauty to be in some trouble. So yeah, I totally see why you would think that.
Yeah, and I think you do get some allusion to issue coming later because you get a preview for episode 2 at the end of episode 1. But that is episode 1, gentlemen. Do you have any final thoughts about this episode?
Mo? I'll go first. First of all, I just want to say that if anyone didn't play the game and wasn't planning on playing the game because they thought it looked dumb or not their type of cup of tea, I was just like you until these guys convinced me to play it, and I am so happy I played it. I thought it was a really awesome experience. Story, gameplay, the pace. I think it was a very well put together game, and I'm glad I'm playing it. I'm excited to play episode 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Mike?
You know, I would echo a lot of that in that I'm surprised I'm enjoying this as much as I am. I am just extra surprised that Mo's enjoying it, mostly because this is not a traditional video game, and the story elements and the way you interact with it, I think is so well done that even Mo is on board with a game that, you know, is not far off from a walking simulator.
Yeah, it's the same thing as like with what Remains of Edith Finch. Like, it had a great story, but there's also some gameplay mechanics and some like decision making that happens. There's some kind of interaction with the game, and that I think overwhelmed the necessity for having like a first person shooter style game, guns or weapons or like RPG style games. It has the other intangibles that make a great game, and it also has some kind of gameplay mechanics in it. So it all comes together, and I really liked it.
So Baby's first Telltale game is working really well. I'm happy to hear that. I just want to make one comment. In the beginning, the Woodsman gets his jaw broken by the big bad wolf, and as someone who had his jaw broken before, let me tell you, it's not pleasant. So that's the only time in this whole experience that I felt sympathy for anyone. But let me tell you, in the next episodes, there will be no sympathy. I'm the big bad wolf.
You are the one who knocks.
I am the one who knocks. Gentlemen, that's the end of our first episode of The Wolf Among Us. But if we want to talk more about The Wolf Among Us, Mike, where would be a good place to do that? I don't know where help me out.
Okay, you can go to leftbehindgameclub.com or leftbehindgame.club. There's a big fat button right in the middle, and you click it, and you join our Discord server, where there are a ton of really cool, very smart people talking about a lot of fun, different games, really good deals. It's a bunch of really cool people. I'm really excited to see what everyone's talking about each day, even if I don't always have the time to hop in and join the conversation myself.
So, Jacob, word on the street is we also have a Reddit account, correct?
That is absolutely correct. So if you go to, it's an r/Left Behind Game Club, but on there we're kind of posting all our links. There's a few other links as well related to the show that are kind of coming up. A friend of the show, MT Mazzo, he posted a remix to Dire Days that he was inspired to make because of us. There's not a lot there right now, but it's somewhere I want to point you to. If you want to dump links related to the show, please feel free to do so. Again, that is reddit.com/r/Left Behind Game Club.
We're going to keep an eye on it. But in the meantime, Jacob, where can the people find you at?
They can find me on the internet at Jacob McCourt or at jacobmccourt.com.
Mo, where can the people find you at?
You can find me at Murtadi everywhere on social media or murtadi.com.
You can find me at Ruffolo M on most social places online or michaelruffolo.com. And that, my friends, is one less game left behind.